At 78 years old, Mick Fleetwood walks more slowly than he once did. The towering drummer who powered one of the greatest rock bands in history now steadies himself carefully before speaking. His hands sometimes tremble, his voice occasionally breaks. For a man who spent more than 5 decades commanding stadiums with thunderous rhythm, the contrast is heartbreaking. Yet behind those shaking hands lies a life so wild, so triumphant, and so tragic that it feels almost impossible to believe one person lived it all. Mick Fleetwood was born on June 24, 1947, in Redruth, Cornwall, England, at a time when the country was still recovering from World War II. Food was rationed, money was tight, and discipline shaped daily life. His father served in the Royal Air Force, and the family moved frequently due to postings. Despite modest means, music filled their home. Jazz records played in the background, and those early sounds planted a seed in young Mick's imagination. When his family relocated to Wales and later to Egypt, the world of sound around him expanded dramatically. In Cairo, he heard African drumming, Arabic rhythms, and big band jazz spilling from clubs and festivals. Those beats fascinated him. He tapped rhythms on pots and pans, building imaginary drum kits out of boxes. By the time the family returned to London in 1957, he already felt different from other children. Music wasn't just entertainment to him, it was language, identity, and escape. At 13, he convinced his parents to buy him his first drum kit. It barely fit into their small flat. Neighbors complained about the noise, but Mick practiced relentlessly. His hands blistered, the walls shook. Still, he kept playing. He wasn't the most technically polished drummer at first, but he had feel. He understood groove, and that would become his greatest strength. At 16, Mick Fleetwood left school, convinced that education was slowing his musical ambitions. London's club scene became his classroom. He slipped into Soho jazz clubs like the Marquee and the Flamingo, watching seasoned drummers perform. He idolized American jazz drummer Philly Joe Jones and studied his timing and emotion. But early attempts to join bands were rocky. His height, 6 feet 6 inches, made him look awkward behind the kit. His timing wasn't perfect. Some bands rejected him outright. He worked odd jobs, including hotel porter shifts, to afford lessons and equipment. In 1964, he joined a pub band called the Chesters. The venues were rough, the pay was minimal, and arguments frequently erupted on stage. One night, overwhelmed by frustration, he smashed his own drum kit. It seemed like a disaster, but his sister loaned him money to buy a second-hand Ludwig kit with a massive bass drum. That booming sound would become his signature. Everything changed in 1977 when he teamed up with guitarist Peter Green to form a new blues band. They named it Fleetwood Mac, combining Mick's surname with that of bassist John McVie. Their debut performances drew attention quickly. By 1968, their first album reached number 4 on the UK charts. Songs like Black Magic Woman and Albatross established them as a powerful force in British blues rock. Albatross even reached number 1 in the UK, cementing their early success. But success came with instability. In 1970, heavy LSD use contributed to Peter Green's mental breakdown. During a trip to Munich, something inside him shifted dramatically. He began speaking about money being evil and withdrew from the band. Eventually, he left entirely. It devastated Mick. Firing his closest friend was one of his hardest decisions of his life. The early 1970s were marked by chaos. Guitarist Danny Kirwan was fired after an on-stage meltdown. Another member, Bob Weston, had an affair with Mick's wife, leading to a collapsed tour. At one point, their former manager even sent a fake version of Fleetwood Mac on tour, claiming ownership of the band's name. Lawsuits drained their finances. The real band members pawned equipment just to survive. Leadership slowly fell to Mick, not because he demanded it, but because someone had to steady the ship. The turning point arrived in late 1974. Mick heard a demo by guitarist Lindsey Buckingham and singer Stevie Nicks. He was immediately captivated.
He invited them both to join the band. It was a bold gamble, and it changed rock history. Their 1975 self-titled album revitalized Fleetwood Mac, launching them into mainstream American success. Then came the making of Rumours. The album that would define them was born from emotional wreckage. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham ended their romantic relationship. Christine McVie and John McVie divorced. Mick began a secret affair with Stevie while his own marriage crumbled. Cocaine flooded the studio. The band reportedly spent around $180,000 on drugs during recording. Emotions exploded in lyrics. Anger and heartbreak were captured in songs like Go Your Own Way. In 1977, Rumours was released and became one of the best-selling albums of all time, moving over 40 million copies worldwide. It turned them into global superstars almost overnight. But while the world celebrated, Mick's personal life spiraled. He overdosed on heroin in a Boston hotel room before a show and was revived by roadies. He told almost no one. Financial mismanagement followed. An accountant stole hundreds of thousands of dollars and fled. Old tax debts resurfaced. Despite millions in revenue, Mick declared bankruptcy multiple times. In 1979, the band released Tusk, an ambitious and experimental album. Mick personally invested $800,000 into the project. Though it sold millions, it didn't match the astronomical success of Rumours. Financial strain deepened. Still, Mick later described Tusk as his favorite project because it allowed creative freedom. The 1980s brought more turbulence. Mick recorded a solo album, The Visitor, in Ghana, exploring African musical influences. Critics admired it, but sales were modest. The band's 1990 album, Behind the Mask, failed to meet expectations, forcing Mick to mortgage his home. In 1993, the classic lineup reunited to perform Don't Stop at President Bill Clinton's inauguration gala. For a brief moment, it felt like old magic had returned, but tensions persisted. Fights between Mick and Lindsey Buckingham continued into the 2000s. Lawsuits and departures followed. Then came personal loss. In November 2022, Christine McVie passed away after a stroke. He described her as his soulmate, an emotional anchor. Her death shattered him. Months later, devastating wildfires in Maui destroyed his beloved restaurant, Fleetwood's, along with treasured memorabilia and photographs. The financial loss was heavy, but the emotional toll was greater. Even so, Mick continued. In 2025, he reunited briefly with Lindsey Buckingham to record music. Fans whispered about possible revivals of Fleetwood Mac, though uncertainty remained. That same year, he appeared at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony, visibly older and slower, yet still filled with pride for the music that defined his life. Today, the towering drummer may move more carefully, his hands may tremble, his voice may falter, but the fire that carried him from rationed post-war England to global superstardom still glows. Mick Fleetwood survived addiction, betrayal, bankruptcy, public humiliation, and profound loss. He held together a band that repeatedly threatened to implode. He transformed chaos into rhythm and heartbreak into harmony. The beat he created continues to echo across generations. Long after the stadium lights fade and the applause quiets, the rhythm remains. And somewhere within it, you can still hear Mick Fleetwood keeping time.